way to this DLD event today. About 6 months ago, we asked the question, how could you inspire the future of payments to a lot of people at universities and events and keynotes internationally. And today, the winning concepts will be presented to you. Why is the question about payment really relevant? It is because payment has become a part of big tech in the last years. I mean, Apple, Google, Samsung, Amazon investing heavily into payments. And I think payment is becoming a backbone for the digital transformation. If you use an Uber, if you use Alexa, if you subscribe for Netflix, payment is part of it. And there's more. The digitization of payments is leading to a better world, to a safe and secure world, and even more sustainable. We're talking about digital payment solutions for the unbanked. And we're talking about solutions that show your CO2 level based on your payment history. That's what payment can do today. We're super happy to hear that we can see a glimpse into the future of payments today. 3 groups will present their ideas. We have a really powerful jury sitting there. Max Giordano, Sebastian Blum, co-founder at Greenfield One, Lawrence Lehmann-Ortega, affiliate professor at my favorite, world-famous university, HEC, and me. So let's let the games begin. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Jorn, and thanks everyone again for coming. My name is Sarah Mackey. I'm also a member of Wirecard Labs, and it's been a great journey to today, as Jorn mentioned, to invite the global community to submit ideas to our challenge. You are going to see the best of the best today, so we've got 3 teams here for you. So the first part of the program is going to be our 3 pitches. So each team is going to have 10 minutes to pitch to our panel of juries here, and then we will leave 5 minutes of Q&A, and that's going to be for the jury. So it should be hopefully at least a question for each of you. So we will, though, invite the audience to participate by way of a vote. So just make sure that you're paying attention to the presentations. You'll have a chance to vote. Afterwards, what the jury is looking for today is 3 things. They're looking for originality. So how disruptive is this idea? 2 would be value. What value does this bring to consumers or society? And 3rd will be potential. What's the market opportunity? So without further ado, let's get started. So I would like to first tell you a little bit about the first pitch. So pitch 1 is called Data Wallet. This is a team of 3. The idea authors are Paul Henke, Thomas Kaiser, and Lawrence Koff. And in general, their idea is going to be about paying for products and services with your personal data. So please help me welcome to the stage, Paul Henke.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah, for the kind words, and for Jorn for having us here today. We're super excited to present our idea. Have you guys ever asked yourself who actually controls your data? And have you ever asked yourself who actually profits from it? Right now, it's big companies that take your data, and consumers largely lack control. You do get these amazing services that are built around the free-to-use model, such as Facebook and Google. But once you've clicked agree, it's largely a big black box. You don't really know what data you've just submitted. You don't really know what the data can say about you, who will use it, and where it ends up. So there's just a big question mark on parts of the consumer. So the data wallet will give you control over your data and let you pay for products and services with it. We think it will be an empowering experience to decide what to share and to get an immediate reward in return. So how does it work? The data wallet is a safe and accessible storage for your data. It will include a variety of different types. For example, personal data, engagement data, behavioral data, or attitudinal data. And just by looking at it, we can see that all these different types have very different types of complexities, and we might be more or less willing to give them up. So how is this data collected, and how does it end up in the data wallet? There's two ways of doing this. Number one is you actively share access to an app on your phone. This could be a payment app or an e-commerce app, maybe your social media, and this will reveal something about your personal preferences, what you like to purchase, and so on. The next way of doing this is by asking you in specific surveys about your purchasing preferences, for instance. So you can actually proactively tell the data wallet a bit more about it in order to give it more value. So we talked about data value, and let's think about it for a second. On this chart, we can see the consumer willingness to share on the y-axis and the value for companies. So on the left-hand side, we see stuff like our name, our age, our birthday, or our email address. And we give this away all the time. We go into a store, they ask us, do you want to become a bonus member? And we just sign off our email address and get marketing in return. On the right-hand side, we have much more intricate data, such as intent, order values, desires, CLV, or payment history that are much richer and much more valuable. And then, of course, there's a bunch of stuff in between, right? So the point is that different types of data have different values. And the data wallet has an algorithm that will assign value to your data based on what types of data you put into it. So with this value, what can you actually purchase in the future? We think that all products and services with low marginal cost can potentially be bought with data. This can be train travel or software-based services, certain types of high-margin food or beverages, and in the future, self-driving cabs, for instance. So the question here is, will people actually want to do this? So are there actually consumers out there who will want to share their data, and what's the privacy concern? I mean, we are here in Germany, and once the word data is mentioned, you immediately in the next sentence hear privacy or some sort of skepticism. But it turns out that actually in Germany itself, 21 million people are right now willing to share their health and fitness data in order to get something free in return. So there's a huge untapped demand and willingness to pay for this, and we think it's a super big business opportunity. So let's take a closer look at the customer side of things. How will this actually work, and how will this be a nice experience for them? Paying with your data will be a simple and rewarding process. Let's take a look at our customer, Jane, here. So Jane goes to her local cafe and discovers that she can pay for coffee by using her data, and she will not be charged any money. So she's immediately intrigued by this. She scans the QR code and downloads the data wallet. She's then given 3 options of data to share. And she chooses to share her payment history to top up her data budget. She can then pay for a coffee and loves the feeling of saving money on this. In the next step, she receives tailored marketing that's only relevant to her because it's based on what she wanted to share. And she actually ends up referring a friend to get extra promotions as a reward. So what we see here is not just an incremental change, but we believe a disruptive innovation. Just think about the process that we just saw. It's a free-to-use business model in the offline world. So Jane just got a free coffee, and think about the other opportunities that we can apply in the future. Think about self-driving cars or other automated things that will have very low marginal cost and will be able to use a free-to-use service that we only know from the online world from great companies like Facebook or Google. And this will unleash a wide variety of new businesses. Just think about Google. If they always asked you to pay 5 cents for a search query, would you really feel the access to the knowledge of the world as easily? Wouldn't there be a hurdle to that? And the offline world is just as diverse, and we think there can be very many business models evolving around this. So let's take a closer look at the data wallet business model itself. So we just saw our customer Jane here on the left-hand side, and she shared her data with a merchant. She gets a product or service in return, and on the back end, that data will be shared with a trusted third party. Again, this is only the data that she chose to share, and that she actually knows exactly what it contains. So the third party will be an advertiser or retailer, and they will pay money to the merchant in order to finance the product or service. Some of that money will go to the data wallet, who facilitates these transactions of data and money. So how do businesses actually profit from this? Because there's 2 sides of the equation, right? So businesses will profit from the ability to complement their existing consumer data sets. It allows for tailored marketing, for predicting future purchases, and for conducting market research. And we think that a huge opportunity lies ahead by the things that we just explained. Let's take a closer look of how we think this market will mature in the future. So we think there will be 3 phases. Number 1 is the early adoption. This will be companies running pilots, trying to figure out what consumers want, trying to figure out the merchant end of things, and what types of data are interesting, and what kinds of business model can be evolved around this. The second stage will be the emergence of new services built on the data wallet business model. So we think this will be mainly driven by IoT and AI mass adoption. So think about the future of robotics. We all know self-driving cars are the future. And the trick here is that there's actually very low marginal cost once you remove labor from the equation. So a self-driving electric vehicle will actually be able to charge very, very little for each individual trip. So all of a sudden, the free-to-use business model becomes viable. And we can think of other robotic applications in the future where the marginal cost will be close to 0. So data will be a very viable way of paying for it. So this is the second phase where these new services are really becoming mainstream and they're taking off. In the third phase is where paying with your data is really in the establishment. And we estimate that a volume of 120 billion in transactions in Germany alone will be possible by 2050. And just think about the global implications and market size if this is the estimate for Germany alone. So what are the next steps for the data wallet? As we saw in the first phase, we want to test hypotheses on customer preferences, and we want to run pilots and develop an entry strategy to really find out what the customer needs and how we can make it work. So our vision is a disruptive way of payments, which enables an entirely new generation of free-to-use business models in the offline world. In doing so, we will change the perception of data value by empowering you to use it actively and get an immediate reward. We will unlock a huge market opportunity of free-to-use business models with a tremendous transaction volume. And we will actually unlock new types of businesses that couldn't exist before. Thank you very much for your attention.
For jury Q&A.
Check, yeah. Does someone want to start, or shall I? Thanks for the pitch. I really liked it. Did you guys like it? Yeah. Very good. So just briefly, I just quickly start with the technical sides of the slides, so not the technical of this stuff, but I think it was well done. I just thought that, for instance, slide 5, it was like super clustered, you know. It's just something very simple to change, like to have less stuff immediately on the slide, and then while you go through it and to have it up, because you know, for us as looking at it, of course the human eye reads it immediately, so while you're still pointing out these things, we already had the entire slide. It's just a really minor technical thing. But now the more important stuff, I really like the idea because you touch on something that I think is definitely going to change a lot, the value of data. I mean, I would say 9 out of 10 people don't have even a glimpse of, you know, the amount of data they are gathering with Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, what they are doing. And I think this is dramatically going to change to perceive a personal value. So in general, I really like the idea to make it more aware that, hey, my data is worth something. So on that note, congrats. I would really... if I would be you, I would investigate more into it. From the example that you gave, and I think to a pitch, to have a really clear, like a customer journey, and to clearly explain actually what the potential of the product. I think it's key to use very concrete, tangible ideas. And you gave the thing with the coffee. And you gave the example of, hey, I'm actually getting a free coffee in return of my payment history. And I think that's not, it's not the best example. I'm pretty sure you get better ones. If you want to stick with the coffee, I like it because it's something that each of us is doing, you know, on a daily basis. But to give away the payment history, you see, that's already too much. So I would either use an example that you say, hey, I'm going to grab a coffee, and all they're asking for me is, for instance, very simple stuff like, you know, to being recognized as male in my 20s, in my case. You know, simple stuff, maybe living in Berlin, and you see what I mean? Just like the simple stuff, because as you said, you guys want to create that people understand the value of their data. Payment history for me, being from Schwabenland, I mean, get me a free washing machine for my payment. You know, give me a trip to New York for that, then you can have my payment history. For a free coffee, I mean, it's €3. I mean, you can know that I'm a male in my 20s. But who else wants?
All right. First, awesome job. I think, you know, you touched on an amazing topic, and I really loved your slides, and, you know, in this short period of time, how you flew through them. Greatly done, and crisp presentation, so really amazing on that one. Also love that you're touching, as a crypto investor, on the topic of data, right? It's all about data ownership, and I think that's a huge future for that market. I would have one recommendation and one question. Recommendation is a little bit in line with what Max said. Pick a demographic. I think, you know, with different incomes of demographics out there, there's a certain type of group in the socioeconomic environment that would probably jump on this and want to monetize because they don't have a lot of free cash flow or income left over. And I think that's a great addressable market. Might they have a lot of valuable data for some other people? That's another question. On this one chart where you had a graph of value and willingness to give it away, look, I'm using Brave as a browser, you might know, and I'm, you know, opting in for actually getting advertisements from them, so I know how much I'm worth at the end of the day when I get my BOT tokens. So I wonder, you're talking about giving away free coffee or free ride. I wonder if my data is as valuable yet that I can cruise through my day when I get, you know, 2 coffees and 2 taxi rides. If it's actually really making me that much money that I'm saving at Starbucks the $5 or euros per coffee, or if it's just 10 cents, 5 cents, 1 cent. So how much is data valuable that I can really sell it to make up for, you know, saving money?
Okay, so to touch on the first point, it's actually not only demographics, so I agree, it's probably like the most attractive group would probably be young people with very little disposable income, but it's also geographies, and we looked at different markets, and you can actually see that Germany is rather conservative, if we put on the slide, compared to like China, Singapore. So here, real quick, that's some actual market research and market data. So yeah, that's a really important point and is one of the key decisions to make for our entry strategy. And then concerning the data value, it's very true. So we got the data from Bombera, that's a data marketplace where you can sell online customer data that your blog or whatever generates, and you can sell it to advertisers. And we looked up the different values, and we first of all believe that this will increase in the future. So as people understand the value of data, so will companies, and they will capitalize on that and build better prediction algorithms so they can actually use it. And we picked services that have very low marginal costs. So consider coffee, that's like, without the labor cost just to make it, it's like 10 cents. Ice cream, very low marginal costs. Self-driving cars, basically no marginal costs. So we actually picked those services, and we don't imagine a future where you can buy a car with your data, but it will be just small services.
So maybe I can build on this. So very good presentation. Thank you. Very interesting. Nice to follow and to understand the concept. How did you get to follow on the valuation of a data of a person? How did you get to the valuation of the global market? Because you also mentioned that there are a lot of innovative business models that you can build around this. So how did you value this?
Yeah. So this was the toughest part.
Especially until 2050. Right?
Exactly. Imagining the future in 30 years is impossible. So we tried to do baby steps to just give you and us a grasp how big the opportunity is. So we started with some fundamental assumption where we said, okay, the maximum is like €5 for a transaction. It won't get any more expensive than that because that's the limit of your data value. Then we say, okay, there will be an adoption of current services that's seen here in the dark blue color, so like coffee, ice cream. And then there will be a lot of innovation and new offerings in the IoT, automation, self-driving cars. So we took some data from the Deutsche Bundesbank to get a starting point. And then we said, okay, we looked at former radical innovations like TV, internet, smartphones, and we looked at their growth rates and we said, okay, we assume there might be something similar like this, and then we plugged it all into a big Excel model and yeah, let the magic be.
So also from my side, great presentation. I don't know if you're aware that Markus Braun, our CEO, was talking on the stage at 11 o'clock, and he was exactly talking about the value of data. Have you come across a little cafe in Boston? Actually, it's called Shiro Cafe. I think they closed the business, but they were doing exactly what you are proposing, or like giving people the ability to answer surveys and stuff like this in exchange for free coffee or some goods.
Yeah, so there's actually that cafe in Boston. There's also another one at Brown University where very much it's for students to give up what they're looking to do in the future, kind of what classes they're taking now, kind of their grades and things like that, and all that data is aggregated and sent forward to marketers, and then in return students get coffees for free. So the coffee model is very much something that's being used now. At the same time, there's also kind of different companies out there doing kind of the data selling process as well. So for example, Robin Rover, they kind of have a different model, and that's very much, this is what your data is worth, aggregate all your data, and then we'll give you like straight cash for it. And we don't believe that's a sustainable model because it's very much a one-time transaction, whereas this is a little more sustainable and you can do it multiple times. So there are definitely things that exist, and yeah, we're aware about the coffee thing in Boston.
Good job, guys. Good job. Good job. Great job. Let's put Okay, fantastic. Let's give it up one more time for the first pitch. That's never easy. Going first, so thanks for being brave to Data Wallet. So next up, we have our second pitch. So our second pitch is called Tailor Contribution System. The idea author behind this one is Ine Boussac. And in general, the idea is using digital currencies and ledgers to tailor taxation in order to break down products by ingredients in order to reduce CO2 emissions globally. That's a mouthful. I think better said by Ine, so please help me welcome Ine to the stage.
Thank you, Sarah. So it was quite a journey to come to this presentation and to be one of the finalists, so I'm very happy to be here and to have you as an audience. Who has heard about climate change? Just raise your hand. It is something we hear about sometimes, sometimes in the media. Who has actually done something by changing his behavior, like in the last 6 months, to help mitigate against climate change? Oh, okay, great. What if I could give you a way to do that, a systematic way to do that? I will present you the tailored contribution system by starting with the climate change issue. So it's really becoming a #1 issue, and it's not only about the forest burning in Australia or in Brazil, it's also about oceans or also about the depletion of natural resources. We know where it comes from. We know what we should change. We know the consequences of what we do. We don't stop. And I'm someone who's optimistic, and I see that if we don't stop, it's not just only it's about the money or about the fact that we don't want to stop, because if you ask most of the people individually, they would do something against animal cruelty or against these CO2 emissions. But there isn't, the system in which we live is not really made for that. We don't really have an incentive to do that, actually. And even if you want to do that, then it could be complicated. Maybe you go to a restaurant, there is no vegetarian meal, in France, for example. Or even if you do it, it's like voting for a party which has 0.7% at the end, so what's the effect, okay? So when you see how cheap the meat is or flights, then it's exactly the opposite as what we want to achieve. So we need a better system. Because if we stay in the system in which we are, we will always be bound to the 5% rule. The 5% rule says that there will always be 5% of the people who have strong ethics and who will say, I'm not flying, I'm taking the train. I'm not eating meat, I'm a vegetarian. But it's not enough. It is not enough, and we see that when we see the figures, when we see the forest burning. We have signals more and more, and I'm afraid of the summer 2020 in Brazil or in Europe. We need a system. The system implies that it's fair, that we all use the system. It implies that it's a monetary, large-scale, official, and standardized. So let's think about a new system. And let's use something which is coming. Sooner than we think. You heard about Bitcoin, you heard about the cryptocurrencies. These cryptocurrencies are like a pool of ideas, and some of these ideas will be taken by governments or companies to create digital currencies, which are centralized, governmental or enterprise digital currencies. And they are coming. China could be the first major country to adopt a digital currency. Sweden also will come, and the EU. Some people know that very well from the Frankfurt School, the blockchain center of the Frankfurt School. This is coming. So we have a system which could be designed by using we have an opportunity. So let's make our consumption model more sustainable by using digital ledgers and currencies to save our climate. This is what TCS is about. So the basic idea of TCS is to say, you have one ingredient in a product. To this ingredient, you have one tax rate. So the tax rate of sunflower oil will not be the same as the tax rate of palm oil, for example. And for each tax rate, you have one token. This is what's great about digital currencies. You can dedicate a digital currency to a very specific usage. You can be extremely accurate by using digital currencies, and it's transparent for the consumer because the payment service provider will take care of that. The consumer will just pay in euro, digital euro, will not know what happens. But we can be very accurate, and we can make our consumptions sustainable by making it systematic. So no one wants to pay more for meat, for example, but if we apply it to everyone, we will pay a little bit more. And then the protection of the environment will be systematic. So each token in the TCS system would be a governmental stable token, stable, governmental. So the aim of TCS is to replace consumer taxes. So it's very ambitious. You know, moving taxes is something, saying something about taxes is complicated. But we have the opportunity with digital currencies, and we somehow must do something because we must change because of the climate change. So the base of TCS is there's the formula based on 4 factors. We know, we have this data. We know how much CO2 you produce by having lamb, for example, producing lamb meats, for example. Ingredient mass, CO2 emissions, distance to country of production, and the production mode. That can be discussed. It doesn't have to be that, but I had to come up with a formula. So this is the formula of TCS. Application areas are basically everything that has with consumer to do. So consumer goods are the easiest because they must have an ingredient list. They must say if the ingredients are organic or not, and they must say where they come from. So we already have this information. But it could be clothing, could be cars, could be restaurants. You would have that kind of prices. And the idea is, okay, if we have these kind of prices, then maybe people will eat more the vegan hamburger. If I take some examples, the carrots, very simple products. Avocado, is it organic or not? Does it come from Israel or Mexico? Then the blue lines are the TCS calculated with the formula. TCS is a tax rate at the end. It goes to the government. Pumpkin seed oil, very famous in Austria, very good. And if we take peanut butter, which is a simple product, depending on if you're using palm oil or sunflower oil, then you will have a different TCS, because palm oil contributes directly to the destruction of the forest in Indonesia and Malaysia, as we know. And if I go a little bit more into the detail, all these strange things are digital tokens, governmental tokens pegged to one ingredient. This is additives, this is spice, this is salt. So this is what TCS is about. Creating this framework, creating this system to make the tax, if you have a soy meat and you have normal meat, completely different, times 7.3, just applying the formula. We already did that. We already, as a society, said, a product is bad for us, so let's make this product more expensive, and let's see what effect it has on consumption. And it worked. This is the figures for France since 1990, but you could take the same for California or for Spain or for Germany, and I think you would have more or less the same. We, as a society, accepted that this product is bad, it has to be more expensive to cover its consumption, and what did we use for that? We used taxation, a system which we already have. So this is what TCS is about, using something we have. The important part of TCS when it comes to technology is this underlying technology. The idea that thanks to digital currencies, you can dedicate currencies to usage, but you can also, as soon as you pay, split your payment in as many tokens as you have recipients to your payment. Instantaneously. No more accounting, no more delayed payments, no more fraud. It's transparent. That would be the job of the payment service provider, and obviously you would take a fee by doing that. So we have key advantages, which are all the ones you see here, and it's for me the most important are systematic and tailored. This is how you come to something which is adapted to the problem we face. And this is for PSP. A pendant to the TCS is that as a society, we can also agree that each and every one of us live and needs to pollute because we don't live in a cave or somewhere. We need to consume. So that there would be a system of individual right to pollute. It will be a token, like a base revenue given to consumers so they can pollute. So the fiscal authorities would give every citizen, for example, 10 RTP per month. This is the public address. And they could only use RTP to pay for TCS. So that it's okay, you can eat meat or take flights, etc. But once you don't have any more RTP, then you pay with normal euro. And that's it. Some kind of a base revenue. It will be also make the idea more sexy for people because you would say them, we give you money every month. So, business model is simple. The PSP would take care of the digital converting and take a fee every time it sends money to fiscal authorities. So the 1% they use now to collect taxes would go to the PSP. And that would be huge amounts. If euro, for example, VAT in euro is 1.2 trillion euros. And what's also interesting is that EU wants to spend 1 trillion euros over 10 years in its Green Deal. So if I could just take one of these 1,000 billion euros, it would be fine to implement TCS. So I think my time is up. Just the roadmap would be, the first would be to develop the IDCS in partnership with the payment service provider. So this instantaneous payment. The second phase would be to use it to this tax system that we know and to talk with governments. And the third phase would be to make it live in at least one country, for example, Norway or Liechtenstein or Switzerland, so countries which are already on these ideas. So thanks for your attention. We have an opportunity and a problem, so let's combine the two and make the TCS a reality. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much. Oh, it's awesome. You're touching an amazingly important topic, doubtless, and I think everybody's probably has consensus on this. You're trying to tame an insanely huge beast, which is great that you're ambitious enough to stand on stage for that. But it seems very complicated from a business modeling perspective. You're trying to talk with consumer good companies. You're talking probably to governments, or don't know even where to start. Like, is this a company or foundation? Is there a business model behind TCS, what that is? You're touching upon something that governments are really immensely caring about, their budget, right? I mean, you said 1 trillion. Do you want that to go up or down? What's the impact from a revenue income perspective for government? So I don't know, lots of questions. Perhaps you have a way to orchestrate through them a little bit.
It's extremely ambitious, and when you talk about taxes, you talk about the budgets of governments. So, but if you say to them, TCS will double the taxes you get in about 12 years, then they would maybe listen to you. So this is the idea. The idea also of the roadmap is to say we start first by using the IDCS to show you that it works on just the current system. So to make life easier for you, so when I go to Edeka, I pay for a product, then you get the money right away. There is no 1 month waiting, you get the Mehrwertsteuer right away. So the idea, this would take 1 or 2 years, this would take more time, and this would take even more time. So I don't go until 2050 like my colleagues, but 2030 would be also. But we have this opportunity that the digital currencies are coming, and the EU wants to tackle the problem, but it doesn't have to be the EU. If South Korea comes to me and says, I want to do that, then we do it. I'm flexible on how we do that, but I think these 3 phases make sense. The first phase, I want to work with the payment service provider. It's a turnkey business model for payment service providers when we accept the idea that the digital euros or digital currencies are coming.
One quick one. I would have loved some sort of breaking it down to something more tangible. And one example I would perhaps think is, yes, we all need monetary triggers to change our behavior, even though you have great, with the earth in flames. But in the end, people only change if it's impacting their wallet. What about a market like in the enterprise world? We know this whole concept around carbon certificates and that people are buying or selling it depending on how much carbon they have used. I think one could make probably a great example about how that has or has not changed behavior of certain enterprises?
It's a great question, because what I'm trying to do here with TCS is, or proposing to do, is to make the carbon certificates not on the enterprise but on the consumers. And the governments and the enterprise have, for them it's much easier to say consumers you must pay than to say enterprises you must pay. Carbon certificates don't work because carbon is not expensive enough. I'm very flexible to the price of TCS because government at the end would make the decision, but if the price if it's not enough, then nothing will change. So we know we must change. Maybe we don't want to. Maybe you don't want to pay your stake twice as much as today. But if everyone does it, then it's easier and it's fair. This is a system. But lots of talks, and I'm ready to present the ideas in as many countries or governments as it takes. But the first thing is to do that, to see that it works. But I think technically it's doable, and it's a nice challenge for a company like Wirecard.
Okay, thank you for the presentation, very interesting presentation. I like the analogy with the cigarettes, which makes it a nice to understand. The only question I have is that we can decide not to smoke, but it's difficult to decide not to eat anymore, and so this will necessarily have an impact on consumers' behavior, and maybe they will be reluctant to implement this type of taxes because this is a tax on people. So do you think this will be easy to implement? Governments will be ready to try this type of things also because there will be some reluctance about this?
I don't think once again it will be easy. But if it's easy, it doesn't have value. So if it's not easy, it has value. So I like it. People need to eat, and we are talking about two very sensitive things, even three: money, eating, and taxes. So it's very sensitive. But what do we want at the end? Today, as a society, obviously what we want is to have the cheapest meat possible to eat meat every day. We know the consequences, so we can live by that and continue, and we will have more and more fires, and one day there will be no more Amazon forest. So what Jair Bolsonaro does in Brazil is just answering the demand of the US, Asia, Europe, for other countries. So what do we want as a society? Do we want to pay at some point for our ecological footprint or not? That's the idea. But I think implementing such a system would be at the beginning very slow, because most of the time when you have a new tax coming, the government starts very slow, and then it comes up and up and up every year. And at the end, you have the CRDS in France, which is huge now. It started at 1%. So I think it could be a way to do that. But that's the job of governments at the end.
From my side, thank you so much. I really like the idea. I think it has all aspects of a real moonshot. Just by the definition of it, it's a really bold idea. It's technically really challenging. It's not something, we could easily have tomorrow. And as Sebastian said, in my mind, I was just like, ooh, that means talking to governments. That means changing the entire way how we pay for stuff. It's really bold, it's really brave, and it will take a while. But that's what I love about it. Because if I think one thing about moonshots is it's definitely a desirable future. So if we ever come to this point, it has a massive impact, and I'm with you. It would make a substantial change. So speaking about moonshots, what I would love to have added to the presentation are now these little steps. You described this beautiful moonshot, and now it would be nice to see what are those little steps going there. A very simple example is, for instance, meat is too cheap. So it could be, if that's the end result, and if you already have the government on your side, to, just make it a normal tax, just make meat more expensive, without the currency stuff. You see what I mean? To offer someone like a government like these incremental steps how to get there.
Okay.
Because I would be afraid that they're after the 5th slide, they're like, this will never happen.
Okay.
It's impossible.
Okay.
And so I think what you need to add to the presentation is, bear with me, or I'll talk about the moonshot, but I give you concrete little steps how we can actually get there. And you know, you can start by, just as you did with cigarettes, I mean, make the meat more expensive, and with the billions that you will get, we can already do great stuff.
You're saying make it more expensive by using the system we already have without digital currencies.
Exactly. So that's your idea, and you know, to get a buy-in, to give them like these little incremental steps, like, look, while we are building up the technology and the token system, etc., you can start by just taxing meat as you did with cigarettes, and with the billions that are generated by that, we can start these amazing projects. And then in the background, these technical stuff happens, and then in 2 years, this is what's happening, in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years.
I really like the path on which you're taking me, because it's about the angle. How do you start? And my angle would be technical first, and then talk, but maybe should revert it. So I'm open also to that.
Yeah. So, and just to wrap up, it's just another minute. So, really great presentation. I think it's also awesome because, I mean, climate change is something, it's a big topic at DLD, and this is a solution.
Yes.
So I like it that because it's like, look, this is the problem, this is a challenge we have, and I actually have for you a solution. So I would make it even faster in the beginning, like, you know, bam, 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 like with the climate, because everyone is aware, but give them like, you know, in very high speed, like 5 slides, like, look, I'm just a messenger, don't shoot me, but this is what's happening in really fast speed. And then I think you should take a little bit of time to explain the token system.
Okay.
Because, I mean, for, especially when you're talking to these folks with government, etc., I think it's worth to take just a moment. I think there was like one slide missing that just explained briefly, like, look, the world I'm coming from, the advantage of a token system is like this, you know, forget about the Bitcoin craziness and the crypto hype. These are stable tokens, etc. And this is the beauty I see with the security, etc. So
I'm very careful when it comes to talking about digital currencies and ledgers. Maybe you've heard, there is no, I mean, not everyone is like Sebastian Bloom and knows what it is. And also, if I use cryptocurrency or blockchain, I'm afraid that government will say, no Bitcoin, thanks. So I'm very careful with these ideas. I also teach myself blockchain and cryptocurrencies, and I use a more general term, which is digital ledgers and currencies.
But then, true, but then make it even more visible and tell them like, look, I'm not one of these crypto kids. I'm not running farms in somewhere. You know, I come from a different side. Yeah. I'm the opposite, you know, just to set expectations. And the final point is the TCS versus RTP. I was not sure if that's too much with the RTP, whether RTP is maybe on the roadmap to the moonshot, something that is coming their way, but rather to focus on the TCS.
Yeah, also I have to say it's a real moonshot. Talking about the German taxation and the government, I mean, this will take tremendous time. 10 years, 15 years or something. The world is burned until Germany will change the tax system, I fear. You know, actually. And the question is there something more tangible? Have you thought about something like, because there are a lot of moving parts, the tax system, and then you have a very, very complex structure of ingredients. Like taxing tobacco is quite easy because it's one product, you know. Taxing this restaurant here, you have to understand what they use. You know, it's quite something. Have you thought maybe about a different approach, just to create like a loyalty system for, you know, good behavior? I mean, this tech thing is really, I mean, this is freaking me out a bit because this will take ages. But the idea is so good that you get something out of, a good decision, actually, that I think something like this, like, you know, you get like tokens when you do the right thing, for me seems to be much easier to develop.
I think as long as the solution is systematic and tackles the problem, I would be happy to use it. And I think if a government says, okay, let's go, I would be very happy to start with avocado and carrots, or with just oil. That would be complex enough, okay? Because we would have to take all the products with oil and say, okay, this oil is taxed at this rate, this oil is taxed at this rate, palm oil is taxed at 35%, okay? So this is what's difficult about this idea. It's as big as you all mentioned, and it has to be scaled down to something smaller. So, but I would be very happy to just take one product.
Because all these industries that you mentioned, palm oil, for instance, they have a huge lobby. You will not, you will not be able to tax this like right away. This is not that easy. There will be a lot of pressure, and I think they will ask why you start with us, and years will go by. Until
it's anything but easy, but let's be ambitious.
No, but it's a great idea.
But that's the awesome thing about Moonshot. Final point, because you should grab a wine with team number one, and you guys should, you should brainstorm together, because just to build on Jorn's point, yeah, maybe one little step is like incentivizing people of making better choices. Like, you're taking the train instead of a plane, and you earned a token. You having vegetarian dish, and for instance, corporate mensas, you have like the vegetarian dish instead of the meat, and you get a token. So brainstorm with team number one, and then
thanks for your feedback. Thank you. Thanks for your attention.
All right. Thank you so much to Ane for his passionate pitch. Let's give him one more round of applause. And to the jury, thank you so much for your passionate questions. We will have to keep it a little shorter, so we'll try and keep it to one question, because it takes us that much longer to get to the champagne. That's the only reason. That's the only reason. I see hungry eyes in the audience. So we have our last pitch, pitch 3, which will be called Stablecoin Payment Settlements. Our presenter is Alexi Lane. And in summary, he would like to share with you his idea, which is that stablecoins can make payments more efficient through the blockchain, and he will also connect to Visa and MasterCard, which makes the process more user-friendly for the end customer. So a big warm welcome, please, to Alexi.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here. Let's have some fun. So my name is Alexi. I'm very happy to be here and present you Everx. Everx is the blockchain development company which they focus to improve card payments, money transfers, and currency exchange. And we work on the problem of how to use advanced technology to help merchants, online entrepreneurs, small business owners to receive money faster from their payment service providers so they can run their businesses more efficiently. And we have a solution for that. Today we see the demise of brick and mortar retailers all over. Huge brands are going out of business, and we see the rise for online shopping, which is great. But the payments are still behind the game. Probably some of you heard about the expression, in the world where Amazon delivers packages faster than banks settling payments, the only way for money to catch up is to send them by a plane. And that happens because from the time when online shoppers enters the payment information on the website to the time when actually the small business owner, the business owner, receives payment in the bank, it takes from 2 to 5 business days. And the same applies for international money transfers, where wires can stuck for days in the correspondent banking limbos. So what Everx offers is to reduce the settlement time from a few days to just a few minutes by utilizing the hybrid approach of combining existing Visa and a MasterCard technology, which is the best part is 1-second authorization, and combined with the 1-minute settlement from the blockchain. But these two systems don't talk to each other. So it must be some secret sauce that we want to use. And this sauce is one word, stablecoins. How many of you heard about or know about stablecoins? Great. Whatever you know, forget it. Because in our system, we treat stablecoins as another electronic money, the same money we use from day to day. The only difference is that instead of circulating within the banking and the payment network, it's actually circulating on a blockchain. So here I have a fresh €100 bill, all right? And I want to digitize it. I'm going to a bank, I give it to a teller, I make a deposit. A few minutes later, I see this €100 in my banking app. Or I go to the same bank who happens to be stablecoin issuer. I do exact the same process. I give the teller €100 and I'll see €100 coins in my blockchain wallet app. So for us, it's the same money, just different technology. And the advantage of the blockchain technology is because we can settle these payments peer-to-peer, which takes a little bit less than a minute, and it's global. That's why we want to introduce the system. So the point is simple. If cards were always attached to bank accounts, why not we try and attach cards to the blockchain? So the actual Visa MasterCard can be connected to the blockchain wallet operating with stablecoins. Let's see how this can work in a real-time example. Meet Michael. He's a savvy online entrepreneur based here in Munich. He sells skincare products to the US market. And because he knows his business, he optimized his sales, his cost. He sources traffic from the United States webmasters. His designer development team located in Argentina. His supplier ships goods directly from India. And he has loyal 24/7 customer support in the Philippines on standby, ready to answer any customer call. He has to pay them every week to keep the business going. And because he offers risk-free trial, which is common for his area of business, he cannot use Amazon, he cannot use PayPal. He has to use a direct merchant account, which is not a bad thing. But because he's an online merchant, not only he has to wait about 30 days for risk-free trial to end, but also he gets paid 2 weeks in arrears. So he constantly have these cash gaps in the operational capital to keep this business going. Here's how Everex can help. What we offer, and please bear with me, this is going to be a little bit technical for now. So what we offer is to retain the authorization part from the Visa and MasterCard networks, but replace the acquiring part with stablecoin payments. So when the online shopper makes payment on Michael's website and his online amount is ready to be captured and authorized, except instead of sending this money to all long journeys through acquiring backend processing and acquiring banks, we actually keep this money in the issuing bank where the processor also have an account. And what we do is, at the end of the day, we transfer this money via interbank, which is free and instant. And the moment we get it, we convert them to stablecoins, one-to-one. And we can make the same-day payment and settlement to Michael's wallet. So he will receive payment in stablecoins in the wallet instead of the bank account. And now he's able to buy more traffic, pay advance to the supplier, and get his business going. But this is not the end of the story. In fact, it's only get started. Because he is able to pay his suppliers the same days, which we gradually move to global payments. So now, his Indian supplier and the Filipinos are paid with US dollar or euro stable coins. But except of the US guys, they don't need dollars, they don't need euros, they need pesos, they need rupees. And that's where Everex comes. Either with direct there or through the partner, we will be happy to buy their dollars or euros and pay them in the local currency and make extra 1% on the spread. This is how we attach the second layer of the business, which is currency exchange. But it even gets better. Michael just brought us 4 new customers at 0 marketing cost. Why don't we issue all of them a debit card, which is stablecoin backed, which has a multi-currency stablecoins, so they can shop locally, pay to each other, send money, whatever. And this way, because we see all the data, we can follow it and chase the merchants and sign them up. Because really, if you sell merchant accounts as the ISO, you don't have any advantage because the cost is all over the board. It's all the same. You're fighting for micro basis points of the interchange. This would give the advantage for the PSP. So let me summarize. What we offer here is 3-in-1 solution. which combines payment processing, currency exchange, and global remittance in one product. It's like First Data meets Revolut meets Western Union. And like I said, the advantage is we can lure and sign up more merchants by offering them better product, faster settlements, lower processing fee, access to more markets. And for the cardholders, also a lot of benefits because they can now do instant money transfer globally and participate in the cashback programs, which we can develop together with the merchant. What we offer now, what we have, and what we need. So Everex can bring to the table 5 years of blockchain R&D. We have fully functioning wallet, which is currently operational. We developed the backend system. We serve 3 markets right now. We operate with Euro, British Pound, and Thai Baht, and a few stablecoins, all US-based. So if you happen to travel to sunny beaches of Thailand, we will be happy to take your Euro and pay you Thai Baht, even if you don't have a Thai bank account, because we offer cardless ATM withdrawal at no charge. Okay. So what we're looking for is a strategic partner to help us to integrate our platform, which is blockchain-based, to the front end, card payment networks, which is not yet developed. And on that, I will finish up my presentation and yield my time for questions. Thank you very much.
Payment. Okay, great presentation. Thank you very much. The big payment companies like Adyen, they tend to offer instant settlement now. We are also working on this. I mean, why should we go for a stable coin in comparison to existing solutions that offer T+0 settlements for merchants?
True. Well, the 2 reasons. First is the interoperability and the cost. If you are, again, I know the Adyen is a B2B, it's a backend processor. I'm not familiar exactly with their model. I'm sure, I mean, we're not alone in this space. We're not the only one who solves this problem. But what we can bring to the table is interoperability in the sense that if you, let's say, have a Revolut and I have a PayPal, or I have a WeChat Pay and you have an N26, we can't pay to each other because we're not the members of the same club. We have to use some kind of connector, which is either SEPA if we are both in EU or SWIFT. But SWIFT, we know it's not good for small payments. It's long. It takes time. So blockchain can be the third interconnector. But again, we have to operate with the stable coins. That's where we believe it's more scalable model than trying to develop this solution within the Adyen or similar processor.
Love your pitch, great slides. You walked through it really, really well. Obviously a more mature kind of thing than what we heard before. And even more so as a crypto investor, that's right up our alley. So awesome.
Thank you.
Don't know for the ones who didn't know, you're from Asia, that's where it's happening. Asia is huge on crypto. And so 1 or 2 questions. You're going into an existing market with a new solution. Are you putting anybody out of business?
Actually not. We want to work. Exactly. We are not trying to compete with this. This solution is actually for the back end. So it's not that we're promoting the brand Everex. It's just basically for like a sample. So idea is to offer this to B2B provider like a Wirecard, so we can kind of license that and offer it as a white label. So it's not that we try to limit it to a specific company.
Okay, then very quick one. What's the go-to market in terms of region? I would think there's other solutions like Terra that are very big on this one as well. What's the competitive advantage you're trying to play out in what segment?
Thank you for this question. Blockchain adoption. The thing is, it didn't happen as everyone was predicted, because operating blockchain wallet requires more, I would say, knowledge from the user. And we believe by putting the cards, which everybody is familiar with, and the front end will it will bring more user adoption. Because in our case, stable coins will be running basically on a back end until we see more adoption. And then we will tweak the model.
I have a question on how you said blockchain is difficult, people don't adopt it. So how will you convince the merchants to go into this?
Again, by offering them same-day settlement
Okay.
using stable coins.
Okay.
So because basically, like I said in the beginning, why it's important to understand our version of a stable coin, because our stable coins are not going to be traded on exchanges. It's basically within the closed loop. So for merchant, like I said, it's the same e-money. And in fact, they don't have to cash it out every time. Why don't just pay forward? It's basically indefinite pay forward for another wallet, another wallet, another wallet. And like I said, we don't want to lock them in one wallet. It's just in the beginning. But later on, we can offer the white label. And in this case, my previous example, when like a Revolut and N26, if they're both on our platform, they can talk to each other. That's the idea.
Just in the interest of time, thank you. I also love the pitch. Actually, I had the same question as Sebastian with the market entry strategy, etc. So that was covered. Just from the pitch, because you started with the Amazon and the retail examples, I would have skipped that slide and go right into your merchant example, because I think it was a very tangible stuff, and rather spend more time on explaining the use case. Like, look, this is how you could do it today, and these are the downsides to that. But with Everex, actually, you would flip it, and this is then the more ideal situation.
All right, thank you.
But thank you so much. Really liked it.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much to Alexei. One final round of applause. Great job. So we have now finished the first part of our program. So we're finished with the pitches. Now we're going to slide into deliberation. So I'm going to steal away the jury members just for, I hope, 10 to 15 minutes where we can decide the winner. So they're going to get to work, but you guys in the audience get to have some fun. So now is the time where we've got champagne to offer you. We have some snacks, so please enjoy, mix, and mingle. We will also really like to hear from you since you got to watch the pitches. So now is the time where we would also invite you for the audience vote. So before we break for your champagne, I'm going to invite Fabian Demboak to the stage, and he's going to explain how you can vote. So enjoy, and we will see you shortly. Thank you.
This is actually just a quick introduction to this voting system, because I think everyone saw the pitches in here. So everyone should also have a favorite pitch today. And it's pretty simple. You can see those QR codes or links on posters around here. You can just go there with your phones, open your camera and just scan the QR code, or you just type the URL into your browser, and then you're able to vote for one of the pitches that you really liked. And then after we come back, after the jury actually decided on one winner, we can also see how the audience decided. It's not going to be factored into the jury's vote, but still interesting to see what the audience thinks of the pitches. So enjoy that, and also enjoy the Fizz now. Thanks, guys.
Get you to come forward again. You can make sure you bring your drinks with you. Bring your champagne with you. Bring a glass of champagne with you. You don't have to sit back down. Make sure you got your champagne glass, everybody. Champagne. We're going to do a toast. Great. Yep, that's perfect. You don't have to sit down. It won't be too long, and then we're going to go right into networking, so you're welcome to stay standing. So everybody at the back, we're going to get started with the awards ceremony. Come on up. Perfect. All right. So before we share back what the jury decided, we're going to share with you their results. But before we do, we want to let you know the audience vote. So we had 80 votes come in, and we will now show you the results of your votes. Wow. So congratulations to Stablecoin Alexi Lane. That's fantastic, and thanks to everybody for voting. So now what we'll do in the award ceremony, it's good, I'm glad everyone's got their champagne. We're going to walk you through the 2 runners up and then get to the grand prize. So what I will do is ask each one of the jury members to come up one at a time. They're going to present to that particular team, say what they liked about what the idea, their favorite parts, and then award the prizes. So to let you know, for the runners-up, we have Bose headphones, and the grand prize winner is a trip to South by Southwest. So without further ado, I'd like to invite to the stage Laurence, who will talk about the 3rd runner-up.
Settlements. So Alexi.
Woo!
So congratulations. And what the jury really liked was the fact that the presentation was very good and very clear. I'm not a specialist of this type of payments, and I think I almost understood everything, so I think that's a very good job in doing this. We also like the fact that it brings really a lot of value to the merchants. This is definitely something that they need, and so we're sure this is in a good way. So thank you very much again. So we have a prize for you. Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Laurent. So now for the next runner-up, I'll invite to the stage Sebastian and Max. Thank you.
Max,
He's right here.
there you go. Okay, very tough call, tough decision. A little bit of different graphs than when we spoke about. But this is not discounting anything. Almost like the winner is the data wallet guys. Want to get them up on stage quickly here? So you guys did really well. I think it was a tough call for us, so don't be in any way so disappointed. We think you're working on something amazing. Personally, me, with a crypto background, I think data ownership, all that kind of stuff is really amazing. And I can only suggest leave your jobs, start doing it, because if you're not doing it, somebody else will. Thank you.
Might be revealed already, but let's have Jorn on stage to present the grand prize. Thanks, Jorn.
So no surprise anymore. I think when I read this badge, it's called "What Are You Adding?" actually, and I think it's the right time to go for a moonshot that is really seems to be impossible, but I think it's the right direction. I like the energy. I like the way the idea is going, and I think it's great. Let's tax sustainable products and sustainable ingredients, please. Great pressure. Thank you. Brilliant stuff. Wow.
I mean, I'm so thrilled. I'm so happy. I wanted to make this idea. I want to present this idea. I have this audience, and now I have a prize. I mean, I'm so happy. I want to make this idea now a reality, and so I'm happy that that you're here and that you know what I'm talking about. So it's for me a very special day today. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I think before we do the closing remarks, just one more round of applause for all the teams. I think what's really important is the jury said how impressed they were at the quality of the presentations and how difficult a decision it was. So I really want to give a warm welcome and thanks to... Thank you so much.
So again, also from my side, thank you for attending. It was really super interesting and was a hard decision really to find the winner, but it was really fun also talking with the jury, with Max and the others. So thank you all very, very much, and we hope we repeat this next year.
Yes. We would just like to say a couple big thank yous, I think. So one is to DLD for being such warm welcome hosts. So please come on stage for... From start to finish, these guys have been fantastic hosts, so we really appreciate it and want to...
Thank you for bringing these amazing conferences here.
Thank you very much. So we have some chocolates for you and your crew at the back. Yeah. Thank you so much to DLD. And we really want to thank all of the fabulous Wirecard labs and marketing team members behind this. So I just want to recognize them. I think this previous slide, if you don't mind. So let's give a big round of applause to the team that made this possible. Okay, and the last thing we need to do before we officially break for networking is everyone needs to get a glass of champagne. Let's get champagnes in hands, people. Champagnes in hands. And we need the social media team is going to come up here and get a big picture of everybody here because we're going to toast on social media to say, happy 2020, let's innovate together. So can I get everybody to come forward? Don't be shy.
No, but she said
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Beautiful. This feels like a wedding photo. No, stay down there. Just squish together. I'm sure everybody's been to a wedding. You know the drill. Get in tight. Get in tight. Oh, yeah, okay. Raise your glass. Raise your glass. Oh, okay. Happy 2020! Woo! Let's innovate. Woo! Oh, a boomerang shot. Woo, woo, woo.
3, 2, 1.
Hi! So make sure that you share that. Make it viral. Okay, thanks again, everybody. Enjoy.